Welcome to Bald Guy DIY. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get the ESP32 microcontroller communicating with the Raspberry Pi and other devices using the MQTT protocol. As you've probably seen on my channel before, I love the ESP32 microcontroller, the price point, the full feature set. I'm always discovering new things that it can do and finding new ways to use it. I've been making a lot of different projects with it lately, some of which I've posted videos about, but lately I've been delving into something new, which is communicating with the ESP32 and a Raspberry Pi. And in order to do that, I've been using the MQTT protocol, which is a message queuing telemetry transport protocol. Though it sounds very complicated, it's actually super simple. Any message that's being sent has a topic, and if the device on the receiving end is listening for messages of that topic, it receives the message when it's sent out. And likewise, when it wants to send a message, it says the topic that it's sending and the message. And if another device is listening to it, the message is sent and received. The theory behind it is very simple, and I'm not going to delve into that a lot. I'll show you a resource that I use to get it up and running. While the technology could be quite complicated to explain, I'm not going to do that. I'm simply going to show you how to set up an ESP32 and a Raspberry Pi in order to send these MQTT messages and trigger a response when they're received. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, without further ado, let's jump into it. MQTT uses what's called a broker, which acts as a server or traffic director or mail carrier, which passes messages back and forth. There's a great tutorial on the Random Nerd Tutorials website. I'll basically be following that as I show you how to install the Mosquito MQTT broker. On a Raspberry Pi, you're simply going to do a sudo apt update so that you're getting the most current version, and then do a sudo apt install Mosquito. The default's going to say yes automatically, and install the client software as well. When that's installed, it's basically going to be running the Mosquito server already. The last thing we want to be able to do is install a service so that it'll continue to run in the background every time we have the Pi up and running. That last command there is enabling the service, and as you can see, when you finish and do a mosquito-v, you do see that the server is running and already working correctly. To direct messages to be controlled by the broker, we need to know the host name of that particular device. So in this case, you can do a host name search. You could also hover over the Wi-Fi logo in the top right-hand corner, and you could see what the currently assigned IP address is of this Raspberry Pi. Now, the Random Nerd tutorial was great, but if you find the one by Pi My Life up, you'll see that it has some additional features, and a couple steps that I want to refer to is how you can wait for messages and publish messages using the terminal window and not having to just immediately go to some actual code. So if you Google Pi My Life up and ESP32 MQTT, you'll find two commands here, a mosquito_sub and a mosquito_pub command, which has some variables here. The mosquito_sub is how we subscribe or listen to a particular topic and message from a particular host. So you can see here mosquito_sub-h localhost is the name of the host. You could also put the IP address. You would need to if it's a different device, but because we're running it on the same Pi that is running the server, localhost works. Then a -t is going to designate which topic it's listening to, and when we hit enter, you can see it's just going to sit there and wait. It's listening for messages that have that topic, and it'll just sit and sit and sit, waiting for any messages for that topic, and as long as it takes to get them. If we open up another terminal window, we can use that second command, which is mosquito_pub or publish. The first one, sub or subscribe. This publish is actually going to send messages, and it follows the same kind of structure. So the -h to designate the host, -t to designate the topic, and I'm just going to make sure that the topic that I used when I subscribed, which is my_topic, is going to be the same topic that I'm going to publish a message to here. The additional switch is -m, which includes message text that you're going to be sending. As soon as you press enter, you get almost an immediate result where the message is received by the listening device. If we were to change that message to something else, you can see still testing or still waiting, and hit enter, bang, it's there immediately. Almost instantaneous handling of that message. Depending on your network traffic, of course this is hosted right on the same device, so it's very, very quick. But even posting from other devices on the same network, in my use anyway, it's been almost instantaneous. Really, really quick and easy to use. As long as you're subscribed to a topic, you're going to get every message that's sent to that topic. So let's take a look at what the ESP32 requires, and for this I'm going back to a random nerd tutorial, ESP32 MQTT, how to publish and subscribe with Arduino IDE. This is basically a sample script that I got from there. It tells you how to install the pub/sub client. There's a few different ones in the library. This one was not in the default Arduino IDE library system, and it did need to be installed separately. By using the Wi-Fi and pub/sub client libraries, we're going to connect to a wireless network, and then we're going to be able to join these topics and receive and send messages. There are some default functions and initializations that need to be done. If you look through the tutorial, you'll be able to see everything that's used there. I've really stripped away all of the unnecessary stuff because a lot of these tutorials tend to add specific use cases, and in this one I wanted to make it as generic as possible so it was easy to see. The setup loop has very simple things, just setting up Wi-Fi, connecting to the MQTT server, which is our broker, and then declaring in here the setup of Wi-Fi. It's just making sure that it's going to have a successful connection. If you have trouble with an ESP32 connecting to Wi-Fi, check out the video that I made recently. Callback function, this is going to be where it receives all of these messages. So this is the most important area for editing and creating the right kind of message handling for when a message is received. It's going to run through a for loop here, which is going to convert all of the message that's received into a variable called message temp. And this little section here is where you're going to be able to put all of your message handling. If you want to trigger an action when a topic is received, then you can do that there. If you want to trigger the action when a message is specifically received to a topic, you can do that. And if you want to send out messages on the topic, you can simply publish just like you could on that terminal window. On this particular case, if I receive the topic of my topic and the message of message, I'm going to send back a message or publish one to the my topic and just say the message has been received. There's an else if here that isn't really necessary. I've just left from the previous example code I was using, and that's basically it for message handling. If we go to the reconnect function, this is both connect and reconnect, and so it's important here to have the designation for what happens to subscribe. The most important thing from this, of course, is that it's going to reconnect if it loses connection, but hidden in there is the need to subscribe to any topics that you desire to be notified of and to receive messages for. For each one that you want to be notified of, you just put client.subscribe and then put the topic name in the quotation marks inside. That's basically the handling, and then in the loop you're just going to reconnect if necessary and just keep looping through listening for those messages. Of course, you could also add additional things to the loop function so that you could run other processes on your device, but all of the message handling for MQTT happens in this callback function. If we load that, we see here that it is connected to MQTT, and now if we send a message out using that terminal window and the message being just message, you can see immediately on our listening code the message was sent out and we got a response back from the ESP32 which said message received. If we look on the output of the serial monitor for the ESP32, we also see here that it received the message and that it sent back the message received string that it was programmed to do. Now let's look at the library required to do this on Python, and you can use here the payho-mqtt library, and this could be on a Raspberry Pi or on a Windows or Mac machine. You're simply going to do a pip install. There's a lot of information on the page. There are great instructions on the PyPI repository, so check that out. You're just going to do a pip install payho-mqtt. If I look at some sample code here, and it's very easy to find sample code online, you can see here that it's going to run and kick out a message to my topic, and the message just being hi from Python on a Mac, which is the computer that I'm using here. It receives it on the listening code right away, exactly like it did from the ESP32. Now, if I was to install payho.mqtt on a Raspberry Pi, it'll behave exactly the same because it uses Python just like you would run on a desktop computer. So if I install it here using the pip3 install payho-mqtt, and then run the exact same script that I was running on my Mac laptop, I'm going to change the device name to Raspberry Pi so that it's a little bit different and unique, and then I'm simply going to bring up that listening window, run our code, and you'll immediately see, once I've actually clicked run, that we're going to get a message, hi from Python on a Raspberry Pi. So any device that's capable of connecting and sending these messages is able to communicate together, which means you can now send information and receive it from the ESP32 and any other device that's capable of sending these MQTT messages. That's extremely powerful. One more time, I'm just simply going to send that original message, which we have message handling for on the ESP32, and because it's always just listening, even after doing all of those other messages, it's going to respond immediately with its programmed response. So there you can see, once you have the protocol initialized and the default functions established, choosing what message to send and what actions to follow when a message is received, it's very simple, and you can create hundreds, maybe even thousands of different messages that are sent and received using this system. It's great to communicate between unlike things, so ESP32 to Raspberry Pi to computer and many different other things. I've also been using it a lot lately with the Node-RED platform, and I might show that in some future videos because that's truly incredible how you can link these visual nodes together and have the communication triggering all sorts of incredible events, both device to device and also through a web browser that you could use on a computer or smartphone or anything like that. If you'd like to see that kind of video, let me know in the comments and I'll be glad to share it in an upcoming week. What kind of application do you have for MQTT, and where would it make your life simple? There's tons of home automation, escape room, all sorts of other kinds of uses for it. And for me personally, I just can't wait to see the kinds of things that I can do with it in the future and to hear from you the kinds of projects that you've been using it for. If you like this kind of content, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check back regularly as I post a new video every week on a wide variety of DIY topics, some electronics, some 3D printing, building, all sorts of different things. I have many, many interests. If you have a comment or question, let me know in the comments section or send me an email. My information's in the description below. And that's all I have for this week. So until next time, in all your DIY projects, however you get the message across, don't be afraid to be balder.